we can,
Notice of public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville. Pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act, notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene an executive session, a regular meeting on Tuesday, September 7th, 2010, at 5:15 p.m. and 6 p.m. in the Commission Chambers on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall Federal Building located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas. Executive session item A, discussion pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code regarding pending litigation. Executive session item B, discussion pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code regarding pending litigation. Executive session item C, discussion pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code regarding pending litigation.
can I,
Mayor
have a
Pro
motion?
Tem, I make the motion that we move in executive session. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Let's do it.
I think they're double A.
Face the flag, with pledge of allegiance.
Where's my cheat note?
Let us pray. Father God, we thank you so much for bringing us through the storm so well here in Brownsville. Lord, as we pick up our limbs, help us to be thankful that we have houses. As we pick up our fences, help us to be thankful we have some place to put those fences. Lord, we ask you to bless those that died in the mudslides in Mexico and Guatemala, the families of those victims. And Lord, for this meeting tonight, I ask you to help each of us to listen clearly to those that are presenting other ideas. Help us to choose to be silent when we don't have a possible solution. Help us to each listen to those possible solutions and to only give constructive criticism tonight. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. Thank you for coming all. City Secretary, item A.
Actions on items discussed in executive session. Item A, action on executive session item as advised by legal counsel in executive session.
This is an action item.
A motion to accept the recommendations of legal.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Action, item B, action on executive session as advised by legal counsel in executive session.
I would also advise legal to take pertinent action taken in executive session.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion
Item
carries.
C, action on executive session item as advised by legal counsel in executive session.
Once again, to advise council to accept the recommendations of the commission and execute.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item 1.
Mayor's report.
Okay, I'll make it very brief. We were hit with Tropical Storm Hermine. I just want to thank all the city staff, directors, personnel, people out in the field, Jeff Johnston, Odie Leal, everybody in the command center, for their support and their participation in doing what they could in a very short notice. They showed the professionalism and the preparedness of the city of Brownsville. We were able to take this tropical storm that was kind of unexpected for all of us and meet the challenge. We had like over 16,000 homes without electricity, and by now everybody should be on. And those are some of the things that happened. This storm hit us a little harder, in fact, than Alex or Dolly, because landfall was just south of us, but then it took a northerly direction to where we were right in the eye, and we got the rains and the gust winds of over 60 miles an hour. I know personally in my house, my fence was knocked down, which survived Dolly and Alex, and 4 of my trees went down. They've been there 30 years. So, you know, there's a lot of damage of that type. Now it's time to clean up, and the crews are out there picking up the brush and doing what they need to do as soon as possible. We just ask everybody to report any structural damage to 504-7405 or email to eoc@cob.us. Send your pictures if you got some damage. Of course, contact your insurance. But we need to assess the overall damage in the city. That way we can perhaps qualify for federal or state funds. And particularly if you see any trees that are down blocking the roadways, or any power lines that are down, or any trees that could possibly fall and knock down a power line, report it to 504-7405 or email us at eoc@cob.us. It's important that we take a full assessment of what the damage was. So again, congratulations to everybody, Jeff and all the team at the Emergency Management Command Center and the crews out there working to restore the city back to order, normal, as quickly as possible. We handled the rains pretty well by lowering the resacas, which we normally do, and we had no reports of flooding and stuff like that, which was good. That's my report. Commissioner's report. Commissioner Charlie Atkinson.
I'll pass.
Pass. Presentations, employee of the month.
Pass.
City manager. Jeff, you gonna do it? You gonna? I thought you were gonna do it. Well, let's go to the consent agenda items.
Move to approve.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items A through, item A. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item. You're out of order.
City manager is
We have
available.
presentations.
City
Item
manager.
3. Item 3. Item 3. Item 3, City Secretary.
Employee of the month.
Mayor, we're going to defer this to the September 20th meeting. Our employee of the month is not going to be available today.
You're out of order, madam. Item 5.
Item 5. Consideration and action to reappoint 4 members to the Brownsville Urban Systems Transit Advisory Committee.
Mayor, I'd like to appoint Mr. Daniel Lenz to the board, or reappoint, I'm sorry.
I think we did that last, no?
This is
another
the
Oh, that was,
airport.
okay.
Yeah.
Can we just
I'm
do
sorry,
slate?
the bus, I'm
That
sorry.
was,
Can we
yeah.
do
them all
slate
together.
over?
I'm sorry, well, I move to approve all 4.
There's 4,
Reappoint.
and I think we're wanting to, in the past, we've been reappointing them a slate. We would nominate an individual, but this time we're going in one at a time. So we're recommending appointments within
Okay.
the commissioners.
That's fine.
So I move to reappoint Mr. Daniel Lenz.
Second.
Daniel Lentz, reappointment.
Reappoint, yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion
I
carries.
move to reappoint Mr. Julian Lopez.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
I move to reappoint Viola Courier.
Viola
Second.
Curr. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. One more.
And we have Mr. Fuentes, that's also seeking reappointment. If
Sure.
either you commissioners wish to appoint him. His application was included in your packet.
I don't know who he is, so I'm gonna wait for mine, and I need to find out more about this person. I know it says my name there, but I know I don't even know him, so.
Nice, Chair.
Okay, you wanna
Move to
table this?
appoint,
Well, that's up to y'all.
Well, I think what you said in your email, you wanted every commissioner to have their.
Well, each commissioner to have an appointment. I think, at this point, the only commissioners that didn't have an appointment were Commissioner Troyani, Commissioner.
Well, I'll defer mine to Commissioner Triani if he wants, because I mean, I put Viola Curry in there, but that was a good reappointment, so I'll defer to Commissioner Triani.
And I'll hold off on mine if I can pass mine until the next meeting, which will be next week.
Are we meeting? Yeah, I can put it
That's
on
up
the
to
next
y'all.
commission meeting.
Just make a motion, table.
I'll make mine on table.
Okay, so we've got Ms. Curry, Mr. Lenz, and Mr. Lopez. Mr. Fuentes will hold off on that.
Well, whoever I
Or
decide to
your
appoint.
appointment.
Yes. Thank you.
Move to table the fourth appointment.
Okay.
We have a motion, a second to table those to the next meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried. Excuse me, item 6.
Item 6, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 2010-1530, granting Texas Gas Service Company the privilege and franchise to use streets, alleys, and thoroughfares to operate and maintain a natural gas distribution system in the city of Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas, providing for regulations for the conduct of the system by the grantee and repealing the present franchise ordinances.
Members of the commission, this is the same franchise agreement with Texas Gas Service that we had previously, but in looking back, there's a posting requirement that it's supposed to run in the paper 3 consecutive weeks, once a week. I wasn't satisfied that that had been complied with, so I'm simply bringing back the same agreement to the commission so we can make sure we comply with that requirement. This would be the first reading, and the second reading would be the first week of October.
No, I'm sorry, number 6.
Okay, this is a public hearing?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Do they pay fees to the city for using our?
They do. In fact, this was the franchise agreement that we renegotiated where there was an increase in the franchise rate.
Oh,
This commission had already looked at this favorably.
okay,
We're simply bringing it back to make sure we comply with the posting requirement.
okay.
So you want to table it to?
No, I want to go ahead and
Move to
approve it.
close.
Okay,
Second.
Wait a second, this is a public hearing. Anybody from the audience? No? Okay.
Move to close.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 7.
Item 7, public hearing and action on first reading of ordinance number 2010-911-F to amend Chapter 46, Article 2, letter of the Code of Ordinances by amending Sections 46 and 47 through 46 through 52 of the Brownsville City Code prohibiting the use of plastic bags in the city of Brownsville and ordaining other provisions relating to the subject matter.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. Basically, tonight what we have is a culmination of the work that was done by the EAC committee. When the ordinance was first drafted, you tasked the committee with coming up with what would work as the ordinance would come forward. Basically, and just giving a real quick overview, local businesses and committee members met, discussed with local business community members, and have recommended some changes that legal will go over with, but their EAC's recommendation at this time is to go with the proposed changes to the ordinance. Thank you.
Okay. This is a public hearing.
Move to close.
We have a motion to close, or there's somebody want to speak?
Mayor,
Let them speak first.
well, actually, Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like Allison, who helped craft the amendments to the ordinance, to go ahead and outline those before the commission and the public so that they're aware of what are some of the changes that the committee has asked to take place. So
Okay.
Allison, if you could go ahead and give a brief overview, I think that'd be helpful to everyone.
Sure. I'll just go over these briefly. We amended the ordinance somewhat to do a couple of things. First of all, we clarified some definitions that were in the old ordinance to hopefully, make them a little easier to understand. We also added a couple of definitions, one for convenience stores. The reason for that deals with the second major thing we changed, which are the exceptions to the plastic bag ordinance. Basically, you know, we addressed some concerns with the business community, and through a lot of discussions and again a lot of hard work by the EAC and others, we came up with a few exceptions to work into the ordinance. Among those are like the beverage bags provided by convenience stores, or paper bags provided by convenience stores, some laundry garment bags, pharmaceutical bags, basically bags provided on occasions where, you know, you basically have one. You know, you go in and you take care of what you need to take care of, and you've got one bag versus, you know, carrying 10 or 12 out of HEB. So between those exceptions, and then finally, this ordinance provides for a surcharge, provisionary surcharge for plastic bags, which basically means to facilitate the transition, should consumers at the first of the year desire a plastic bag, there's a $1 surcharge which would apply to that purchase. And this is something that we may sunset, we may phase out. We're just going to kind of see how it goes. But we did want to introduce that, like I said, just to kind of facilitate the transition at the first of the year. And that's really it as far as the additions. Like I said, you know, a lot of people came together to work on this. The committee, the Environmental Advisory Committee, and others in the community. We did speak with Duro, and I think we came up with something that we can all agree with that still, you know, carries the object and the spirit of the ordinance, while you know making a few adjustments to alleviate some concerns of those in the business community.
Thank you, Allison. This is not a debate, okay? So I'm going to ask the commission to please refrain, can we do that, from getting into a discussion with the speakers. The speakers have a right to speak with their opinions and all that. After they speak, if the commissions want to make some comments, I welcome that. But let's not get, you know, to where, because people get passionate about the issue sometime. I don't want to get this out of control. So let the speaker speak on the subject matter, and stick to the subject matter. I'm asking the speakers to stick to the subject matter, and that way we can get through this as quickly as possible. If you would do that, we'll start that with the first person here to speak is Roman Perez. Please come forward. State your name, you're for, against it, or whatever you have to.
I'm actually against it. I actually wanted to ask a question with regards to this particular change. I was talking with Art earlier. There's been at least 2 changes that he knows of from the version that you all have on your computers and the one that they have. One of them is involving the definitions of reusable bags in regards to durability. Are you all aware of that, or are you all not aware of that?
We're aware of that. She'll answer. Go ahead and ask a question. She will respond.
Okay. But you all aware of that then?
Yes.
Every one of y'all?
Yes,
knows
we
that
got the
definition?
copy of the ordinance
Okay,
on that.
just want to make sure. I have to ask about the garment and laundry bags. Is that is that in regards to dry cleaning bags, or is that in regards to something completely different?
That's your common cleaners,
let
your
Allison
Rex
take-
cleaners,
That's specifically for dry cleaning. Why is it not?
suits, dresses.
So it doesn't involve, you know, you go into a store and you buy, you know, some clothes at like a Dillard's or something.
Ought to be considered a garment.
It would not be considered, okay. My problem in regards to this ordinance is really because of the fact that you all are banning a business from being able to hand out something to their customers, as opposed to trying to educate the public in regards to recycling efforts or hurting the environment. I have a deep concern over what this commission is trying to do overall, in trying to tell businesses what to do and what citizens what to do. That's my biggest overall concern. I also have a problem with regards to paper bags. You all are saying it's okay, not necessarily you all because you haven't voted yet, but your city and your Environmental Advisory Committee is saying that paper bags are okay to be handed out if you're a convenience store, if you're a liquor store, if you're a veterinarian, if you're a pharmacist, or what's the other one I'm missing? Oh yeah, you're a restaurant or food operator. But it's not okay if you're, let's say, a Dillard's or a Bell's or a Best Buy. It's not okay if you're a grocery store to hand out paper bags. And I don't think that's really consistent. If you all are saying it's okay for certain entities in the city to hand out paper bags, why is it not okay for everybody to be able to hand out paper bags? And what's the problem with paper bags? It's not just the fact that Duro provides so many bags in this community and actually have, about 120, 150 jobs in this community. But the fact that you all are saying certain entities are okay to hand out paper bags is a bit inconsistent. I have a deep concern that plastic bags, I know that Art has told me that the reason that y'all eliminated biodegradable plastic bags from being in this ordinance or being able to be handed out is because recycling centers can actually recycle the plastic bags correctly. And it causes, I think the word that he used was gum up the machines. If we can actually focus on having industry here and have biodegradable plastic bags provide jobs here, market it and do research on it, that might be a legitimate way as opposed to actually banning all types of plastic bags. I think you should also have the ability to give the business the ability to be able to hand out these bags, these biodegradable bags. And I don't think it should be the government's job to be able to say what you can give and not give. As far as reusable bags being used right now, I recall that there was an individual who stated at a public hearing at the iTech campus, or iTech Center, I don't know what it's called these days, saying that the reusable bags at HEB are not very, very reliable. They're not very good. What ends up happening after you wash them is that they get torn up by washing machines and it uses up, I guess, electricity and water and whatnot. And that was their concern. That's because they use reusable bags, or those reusable bags. And I think that was one of the reasons why you all took off the 200 mandatory uses for a reusable bag to be defined as a reusable bag. I have a problem with those types of reusable bags because you're using energy to wash them. You're using water to wash them. You're using energy to dry them. And if people are going into stores and not being able to, I don't know, if they're going in and they're dirty and they're not cleaning them properly, that's not fair to me. Why should I have to go to a store and watch these dirty bags that are there, or have my groceries be, I guess, touched by somebody who's been having to touch these dirty bags if they're not clean? And if you are having to clean them, what makes them durable? I really hope that you all rethink this. I don't think any of you all are going to rethink this. I think you all are just going to be stubborn about it and do it. But I really, really, truly wish that you all would just go towards education as opposed to doing what you all are doing. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Perez. Who's next? Please state your name and stick to the subject matter, if you're for or against it.
Yes, good evening. My name is Leticia Perez Garzoria. I've never spoken on this, but I'm not for it. I don't know whose idea it is, who's getting punished, who's the one that's really getting punished, and who's the one that's being saved. Because you're going to have litter whether you pass this ordinance or whether you don't. You're going to have stuff on the lawns, or at Walmarts, in the parking lots, or in the ditches, on your resacas, or wherever you have said you have litter. That doesn't concern me as much as when I go to the grocery store, whoever has these little carry-alls, just like we're resourceful to use the paper bags to use for the trash cans, we're probably going to be as resourceful to use these carry-alls to do dirty diapers, urinated poo-poos, and what have you, adult diapers. There's no ending. You cannot put a hatchet and say, this is the way it's going to work. You don't know how it's going to work. People are resourceful. They have to be. But as they're going to be putting their E. coli and the poo-poo that they're going to hand over, they're probably not going to have time to wash it. So these little receptacles of germs and what have you are going to go in the little conveyor belt where I'm going to put my cabbage and my lettuce and my apples and what have you. Not everybody's going to be as careful as one might think. This is idealistic. It's okay to think about it, but it needs to be rethought a little bit more. People are going to do what they're going to do. They're human. We are human. I'm not saying I'm going to do that myself, but how can I say nobody else is going to do it, or somebody else is not going to do it in their homes? I can't regulate the homes. I can't regulate people. This is putting a regulation like this is what you should do. Yes, you should do it, but will you? You're still going to have litter. This is not going to be a fix-all. This will not be a fix-all. You will come to see it. And the jobs that could be eliminated, I don't know if they are, they're not. But you certainly are putting a damper on it. And we need jobs. We need people to come to Brownsville. We need industry. We need progress. We're taking a step back. Okay, if you want to micromanage, whatever you want to micromanage completely, fine. Then let's just put a stop and a stalemate to this city. We're not going anywhere because we're going to micromanage every little thing that goes on in the city. There's human beings out there with different kinds of needs, and you're taking a step back. You might be eliminating some good jobs and getting rid of some good people. So this is something that you might want to think about, because we need to move Brownsville forward. As idealistic as this idea may seem, you are not going to regulate people's in their homes, how they do their trash, what they do with their poo-poo diapers or their urine diapers or anything else. That you cannot manage. So I would say, please rethink it, because I think that we're going to do more harm than we are good.
Thank you, Ms. Lasoria. Next person, please state your name. And if you're for or against it.
Mayor and Commissioner, my name is Craig Timmer. I'm here to speak only to the amendment, and I appreciate the committee and the commission for considering this amendment, because I think the addition of paper bags is a good addition which wasn't in there before. In reference to the previous speaker, I think that if a lot of people use paper bags, Duro Bag Company can probably add some jobs. So I thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please state your name, whether you're for or against it.
Hi, I'm Rose Timmer with Healthy Communities, and we have been partnering with the City Commission, the mayor, and a lot of retailers, and a lot of you know who they are, to ban plastic bags in the city of Brownsville. I know we started this a couple of years ago. The health department is in favor of it because of what it does to our drainage ditches and our litter problem. Yeah, it does gum up the works. Recycling paper bags, recycling plastic bags is not the way to go. Less than 3% of them get recycled. And we have a problem in Brownsville, so we're addressing it by asking the City Commission to ban the one-time use plastic bags. We feel that we have a very good consensus from the public on doing this. There has been some negative, and there's bound to be. We are not asking people or telling people what to do with their groceries. I had somebody say to me, well, I guess I'll bring my suitcase to the grocery store. If that's what it takes, that's what it takes. But there's a lot of talk, a lot of discussion. This is a good idea for Brownsville. This is a good step forward for Brownsville. So I highly recommend that the commission go forward with this. We've worked very hard on the amendments. It took us this long to come back to you and tell you what we want to do, what we don't want to do. And we had a lot of input. There was a lot of talk back and forth, a lot of emails going back and forth. Allison was very involved in helping us give us some legal guidance, as was Mr. Chosi at the beginning. So as far as Healthy Communities is involved, we really would like for you to go forward with this. And I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Timmer, and welcome back.
Thanks.
And you had a great article, by the way.
Oh, good. Thanks.
Next person, I think we got one more person, Allison. Okay, this is going quickly. This is good.
Hi.
Thank you.
Tere Flores, tax-paying American citizen. I'm totally against this ordinance, mainly because it's very anti-American. Plastic bags are made here in America. These bags are made in China. So we're gonna give our money to China. I think that's so un-American, and I mean, what's wrong with you people? You're acting like communists now. You want to control everything about our lives. You're putting these ordinances, these regulations
I don't want you having a heart
against.
attack here. Calm down. Calm down. Nobody's angry here. You don't need to be.
I am angry.
But calm down. You're going to have a heart attack.
I cannot calm down. This is so stupid. We need jobs. Instead of working on trying to bring companies in town, you're worried about stupid ordinance of plastic bags? Do you know that 60% of the people are against this? There's been already some surveys done. What is wrong with you people? Will you get your head out of where it doesn't shine?
Don't go there, Ms. Flores.
Thank you.
Don't
thank
go
you.
there, Ms. Flores.
Okay, hey, it's okay, it's okay. She's entitled to her opinion. You don't have to agree with her. She could use a different way of putting it, but we're here to listen to everybody. Allison, please continue now.
Well,
Maybe you can address some of those things.
I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. Number one, under the definition of reusable bag, it is true we've got some specifications as far as paper bags. One of those is that the paper bag have a 65-pound weight, and that's kind of a terminology used in paper circles. Essentially, we came up with that number because we were looking at other catalogs from across the country as to what constituted a reusable paper bag, and that number was compromised. So when those are handed out at the malls and other stores, I mean, those can be reused. Not only that, but Duro has indicated they are not leaving Brownsville. As a matter of fact, they've mentioned the possibility of bringing 1 or 2 new machines down here to make reusable bags. So
That's a great compromise.
we see the ordinance as a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
Who to close?
Mayor, may I have the floor?
Okay, wait a second. Give Commissioner Camarillo the floor, please.
Well, first of all, Allison and members of the committee, I think they did a great job. And I'm expressing that to the mayor and to the commission. We've met almost every Wednesday. And said many times if I couldn't be there, Rose took over and a lot got done. You know, this is months of work that went into really brainstorming as to how this would work come January 2011. No one really knows what's going to happen next year, but we believe from what we hear from the stores, the small, the medium, and the large businesses, and the mom and pops, and all these other companies, is that this is the right direction to take to move us forward, to make this happen. Hopefully, to transition the community into something that's very positive and what we believe to be the right thing to do. I think what would be stupid of this commission is to not act and do anything, to see a litter problem grow and just turn the other direction and just say, okay, that's just the way it is because you can't control people. I think that's stupid. But this commission had the foresight to do something, and we're going to be the first in the state. We are the first in the state of Texas to say that we don't want this in our community. And so 3 reasons why this is positive is because it takes care of the environment. 2, it helps clean up the city. And 3, it will create jobs. And this whole thing of the China and all this, well, you're asking people to go buy and purchase. We're not asking anyone to do a single thing. What we want people to do to become either their own entrepreneurs, to say, I have a bag at home, and guess what? I don't need another bag. I don't need the store to provide me anything. If I want to go pick up my milk or my whatever, I can take that in my own hands, and I don't need to use this product that is causing us so much harm. And by doing that, we're going to get a group that says, you know what? I'd like to create a bag. I want to produce this, I want to sell it cheaper, or I want to create a nonprofit, and I want to help elderly and low incomes. That's what we're going to do by adopting the amendments to the ordinance. So all of this of forcing people to do anything, I disagree. I think it does more than that, and I think it'll be noted from years to come. And so I fully support the amendments. It's not perfect, but I think in due time we will learn more. But I think it takes us where we want to be, and I think that's the most important thing, what it will do for the environment. And I hope down the road, the education part of all this, and Mayor, you've mentioned this many times, to help make sure that the people understand what we're doing is at the forefront. That is the most essential thing, to talk to people, educate them, so we can have a better way of life for everyone here in this community.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think it was very well said. And this is one of the rare, and I think I could honestly say this, one of the rare times that you see the commission pretty well united to address a problem. And some people, you can't always please everybody, that's a given. But, at least they cannot criticize us for not trying. We're trying to build a better Brownsville. We're trying to keep a cleaner city. And, you know, we owe a debt of gratitude to all the volunteers, Rose Timmer and everybody that worked on this, Commissioner Camarillo, and everybody that supported this to get us this far, because it was a long journey and a lot of compromises. And it, like Commissioner Camarillo said, it's not perfect. But that doesn't mean we can't come back and tweak it to make it better, you know? There's always that option. We're going to learn as we go. We're the first in the state of Texas to do this. Maybe it is idealistic, but I like being an idealist because that's the way you build a better world, not a pessimist. Because if you're a pessimist, then you give up before you even get started. We're at least making the effort. We're a border town, but that doesn't mean we have to be the picture of a border town to the rest of America. You know, being littered everywhere, that's economic development. That goes against economic development because people see that and they say, well, why would I want to go live in a city that's all dirty? You know, it doesn't have the pride to keep it clean. But of course also it's to help our environment. All these reasons are why we're trying to do it. And I think everybody here should be commended for it. But now it's up to you, the citizens. It's up to you to make it work. You can resist it, complain about it, try to undermine it, and be negative. Or you can be positive and make every effort, like when you go to Sam's. Nobody complains. You go in there and you don't have, they don't give you plastic bags. You know, they give you boxes or you take them in a basket and you put them in your car. Nobody complains. So I mean, we're not reinventing the wheel. It can be done, but it's up to the citizens of this great city to fulfill the potential that we have to keep our city beautiful and clean. By supporting this and being part of the solution, look for ways how you can carry your groceries home. You know, there's alternatives. There's different ways. And as this ordinance gets implemented, you're going to see the market flooded with new ways of carrying your groceries. So we thank Commissioner Camarillo, everybody else that's worked on this, the committee, the retailers, everyone that stepped up to the plate to at least get this far, and we got a long ways to go yet. We're not there yet. We got January 1st, January 5th to make the transition. Now it's up to us to network out and let people know what's expected of them and to be prepared for January 5th. Thank you very much.
Mayor Mapp,
Sure.
I'm going to speak on an educator's standpoint. The generation of kids that we're producing today in your public schools and in any educational system, we've been teaching these kids to be environmentally friendly. This is the environmentally friendly generation. These kids are prepared. These kids are asking on a daily basis. I recycle in my room. I feel that at BISD, there's more that we need to do. Be honest with you, BISD was overwhelmed by what happened when we started recycling on the campus. You know, I have 3 containers in my classroom. One for plastic, one for aluminum, and one for paper. And these kids do it. They avoid the trash can. They've been educated to do this. And that's what we're trying to do. Some mayors said, some other people said, we're pioneers in this. That's fine. But what we're looking at is the future, our children. We need to instill these kinds of things into their minds so that we can have a healthier planet, a healthier community, and at the same time, it's civics. You're making responsible citizens within your own community. And these children, by far, will exceed everything that we were taught by lessons such as this. So by all means, if that's what it takes, you know what, if it's gonna make you mad, and like we've been saying, well, we're not gonna vote you into office because you're making these radical changes, so be it. So be it. The threats really don't do anything anymore. We're trying to do what's right for this community. We're trying to do what's right for our children. You know what? I want a better planet for my children when they grow up. This is not about, I'm guilty of it. I was one of the people that for years used the H-E-B trash bag for my groceries. And you know what it took? It took my wife to pull me from the ear and say, you know what, we're gonna use a can liner. And this is where our grocery goes. They go in the can liner. And you know what? It's 77 cents for a box that lasts us about 2.5 to 3 months. And all our groceries go where they're properly supposed to go, in a can liner. And you know what? We've just avoided the use of all these plastic bags in our home. And that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. You know, and I remember as a child going to Miss Flores' store, you know, because that's where we got our produce from. We got it from the Flores store. And, you know, we took our own stuff. En Morral llevábamos y cargábamos las cosas. Your mother's a beautiful, likewise, we've had a wonderful relationship with your family. You know, your mother was, wow, wonderful, wonderful lady. She is a wonderful lady.
She is wonderful.
She is a wonderful lady, you know. And, you know, when we came into the store, we came in con morral. Y ahí echábamos las cosas. We put our stuff in our morrals, and that's where we would take it. You know, same thing now. I mean, when I started working for HEB as a teenager, we still used, you know, the paper bags. Then later on, they brought in the plastic. But, you know, times have changed. Same way we went into plastic, you know what? Now we're finding out that there's negative consequences to the plastic bag. And now we're just looking to prosper as a community. That's all it is. We're not trying to make anybody mad. We're not trying to make you mad or say, you know what, we're going against you. By all means, I took an offense to the comment from the gentleman from Duro. Because trust me, the last thing we want is to let go of an institution such as Duro within our community. But, you know, so be it. There have been some resolutions to it. And that's what it's about. It's about talking and dialoguing. And the same way that this came to be through Healthy Communities, you know, this is the same way that we continue with a lot of other things. We want to be a big city. We want to be a great city. But along with that comes a different responsibility. If you want to be that big city that gets recognized, you have to be the one to make the changes, to want to make this community be better. And I strongly, firmly, wholeheartedly believe that this is a definite step in the right direction.
Put it close.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else want to say something? No? Commissioner? You're a big environmentalist. There's nothing wrong with that. I support that. There's nothing wrong with
Thank
that.
you. I would like to
Lord.
say that certainly there's nothing ever wrong with being an idealist or having a vision. That's the only way that we progress. And being a fatalist is not productive. I was blessed to take a family vacation to Ireland this summer, where they had one of the first plastic bag bans in the world several years ago. And it was delightful to identify with that and go to the store. And I said, badly, "Do you have a bag?" And my kids all attacked me, "Mom, they don't have plastic bags here." So I bought an Irish reusable bag for my trip there in Ireland. But I didn't see anyone complaining there. In fact, they were very proud of their environment. The trash cans in the hotels were tiny compared to ours, and they really care. And it was delightful to see a country and a people that were united behind the environment. And I'm glad to see that we're taking that step forward.
This is an opportunity. One of the things that, like Rick mentioned, Dudo said, you know, made some threats and stuff like that. At one of the meetings, I told him, look, this is an opportunity for you to adjust and make money. There's a market here that's being open for you. And glad to hear that they come to the table and compromised and saw the opportunity, and they're going to expand. So that's great. So I think if they're supporting it and are part of it, I think we should all support it. Thank you very much. Motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This is an action item.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you for all of you who are working on this and continue to work on this. Item 8.
Item 8, public hearing and action regarding the Brownsville Urban Systems proposed service change. Proposed service change includes elimination of Route 31, Brownsville, La Paloma.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. With me, I have Tom Logan, our transit planner, and he will go over this proposed service change.
Briefly, our agenda will be covering Route 31, Brownsville, La Paloma, We're going to talk about fiscal year 2009 route performance, fiscal year, this fiscal year route performance, and then we conducted a peer comparison, and then we'll give our recommendation, and then we're going to open our presentation for public hearing. Route 31, Brownsville, La Paloma. We established a partnership with the Development Council to run this service. This route, for the most part, provides service in rural communities outside the service area of bus. Service started in September 2008. We used JARC funded, which is mainly for work and educational related trips. So we targeted the traditional work hours. As you can see here, we start service at 6 in the morning to 10 a.m. and then again in the afternoon from 3 to 7. This service runs Monday through Saturday, 308 days a year. We conducted a marketing campaign. In November 2008, we conducted a passenger survey to gauge what the riders were thinking about our service and to promote our route. Also, in 2009, we run advertisement on the bargain book, 3 months, both English and Spanish, to market our service, to let people know that the route was here, what points were we taking people, and letting them know that the service was there for them. We also developed an outreach video, which is being displayed on our terminal and Channel 12. And then the last item was an action plan. In June 2009, we realized that the service wasn't producing our expectations. And so we conducted another series of public hearings, another survey, and we visited all the townships within that service area to interview residents and to conduct an awareness about the available service. Here we have the route schedule. Basically, this route starts at in Brownsville at Sam's, and it goes directly to Olmito. From there, it goes to San Pedro, Villa Cavazos, El Ranchito, Calaboz, and La Paloma, and it returns on the same alignment, basically. Here we have the schedule. As you can see, we have 4 trips in the morning and 4 trips in the afternoon. Fiscal year 2009 route performance. We provided a total of 308 days of service. We covered 2,428 hours of revenue service. We traveled 92,624 miles, and we transported 4,039 passengers. That gives us an average of 1.7 passengers per hour, or 0.04 passengers per mile. Again, this was the first year, so we decided to give it another year to let, again, promote the route and make sure that people were aware of it. We had to estimate the average the last 2 months, because we don't have the numbers yet for August and September, where we're currently running. We're estimated that we're going to provide 304 days, 2,400 hours of service, 85,000 miles of revenue service, and again, we're only going to generate 4,043 passengers. The cost for this route for the fiscal year is estimated at $137,000. And when we look at the performance for fiscal year 09, passengers per hour, 1.7, again, the same amount. Cost per hour, revenue hour is $57.10. And passengers per mile, 0.05. Now, we did do a peer comparison to make sure that this route, how was this route doing comparing to the other routes. Route 31, we have the numbers here. Route 30 is the route the bus runs within our service area. This route provides service out on the south side of the airport, which is a rural area similar to what Route 31 runs. Then Rio Transit is the rural provider for the 3 counties, the COG. And then we also did the Texas average. We used the 2008 statistical book from Texta to see how the rural services were provided. Passengers per hour, as you can see, 1.7. Our route, 3.2. Rio Transit, 4.3. The Texas average is at 3.8. So it's way below its peer comparison. On the cost, $57.10. Our route, we provide service in an urbanized area, therefore our services tend to be more expensive than in the rural setup. Rio Transit, $84.80, and the Texas average is $51 for a rural area. Passengers per mile, 0.05 on Route 31, 0.20 on Route 30. Rio Transit is at 0.18, and the Texas average is 21. So it was clear to us that Route 31 was not performing to its peers. And here we have our recommendations in regards to Route 31. We're recommending that we delete Route 31 Brownsville La Paloma due to its poor performance and service demand. And I believe
The Lower Rio Grande Development Council has planned to implement service along the same route alignment. They're currently looking at that route to add Los Indios and San Benito to try to see if if they can pick up the service under a different program, which under the Rule 5311 Rule Program, which has less restrictions. In order to be good stewards of the public funds we have to show that we are achieving the results we hope for. Our methods for achieving those results are effective, and that our methods are fiscally responsible. Sometimes we're faced with having to make difficult decisions, but it's our duty to improve our operating efficiencies and effectiveness in order to improve project outcomes and reduce costs. We're not saying that there's no need for public transportation service in the area served by Route 31. What we're saying is that based on the route performance and despite our efforts to create awareness, we have determined that fixed route transit services is not the most effective and efficient manner to meet this need. Furthermore, Rio Transit has notified us that they have undertaken planning activities to provide some type of public transportation service in these areas with funding they receive under the Rural Transit Program, which has more flexibility in the way that they can apply those funds than we can with the JARC funds. This will help us mitigate our recommendation to delete the service. At this time, we can open it for public comments. I know that there's two individuals here that live in that area. I'm not sure if they. Oh, that's right. And also, we did have a public hearing on August the 30th, and the comments of that public hearing are attached in your packets.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anybody for or against it? Please come forward.
Mayor, Commissioners, my name is Craig Timmer. I really don't have a comment on this except incidentally, if this is going to be deleted, and it looks like it probably should from a monetary perspective, I would like some consideration giving to providing some kind of weekend or evening bus services out to the sports park. I think that's an area that can probably use a lot of public services through the bus system, and I'd like to see that occur. Thank you.
Very good. Anybody else? If not, can I have a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
A motion closed?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. This is an action item. Can I have a motion?
Motion approved.
Motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a second? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carries. Item 9.
Item 9, second public hearing to discuss the proposed 2010 ad valorem tax rate for fiscal year 2010 of 70 cents per $100 valuation, which is 7.63% over the effective tax rate of 65 cents per $100 valuation.
No action.
Mayor, members of the City Commission, before we start talking to you about the proposed tax increase, there's been some questions regarding what the effective tax rate is. So I'm going to spend some time explaining to you how we arrived at the effective tax rate calculation. What sets this particular tax rate? The Texas Constitution sets out the general requirements for truth in taxation. The Texas legislature amended tax code chapter 26 to set out the specifics. Truth in taxation requires the taxing entity to calculate two rates after receiving a certified appraisal roll from the appraisal district. And that's for the effective tax rate and the rollback rate. These two rates are calculated from the 2010 effective tax worksheet that the state controller provides to us. Generally, the taxing entity must take the following actions: determine and publish the effective tax rate and rollback tax rate. This has already been done. Decide how much revenue it needs. Calculate the tax rate required to raise the amount it needs. Publish notices. Hold two hearings if the proposed tax rate will exceed the rollback tax rate or the effective tax rate. Adopt the tax rate, and if necessary, administer a rollback election. Truth in taxation also has 4 principles. Property owners have the right to know about increases in their property's appraised value and to be notified of the estimated taxes that could result from the new value. We all get some of these statements sometime around April and May, and they're mailed to us by the appraisal district. A taxing entity must publish its effective and rollback tax before adopting an actual tax rate. This newspaper notice was published by us on August the 18th. A taxing entity must publish special notices and hold 2 public hearings before adopting a tax rate that exceeds the lower of the rollback rate or the effective tax rate. This notice was published on August 24th. We also have this notice appearing in our webpage and TV station. And this is going to be from August 24th through September 7th. If a taxing entity adopts a rate that exceeds the rollback rate, voters may petition for an election to limit the rate to the rollback rate. The effective tax rate is a calculated rate that will provide the taxing entity with about the same amount of revenue it received the prior year on properties taxed in both years. If property values rise, the effective tax rate will go down and vice versa. The calculation process starts after the chief appraisal delivers to the taxing entity the certified appraisal tax roll and the estimated values of property under protest. The taxing entity's finance director determines the following information is supplied by the chief appraiser in his certified tax roll: the total appraised and taxable value of property in the taxing entity, the total appraised and taxable value of new improvements, and the total taxable property annexed since the preceding year. To calculate a 2010 effective tax rate, a taxing entity must first determine its total 2009 property taxes. The effective and rollback rate calculations begin with the total property taxes and values for the last year at the time of the rate calculations. These totals include all supplements and corrections that have occurred to the tax rolls in the last year's certification and tax rate adoption. The effective tax rate enables the public to evaluate the relationship between the property taxes for the preceding year and the current year based on a tax rate that would produce the same amount of taxes if applied to the same properties taxed on both years. This is a more or less here it is. This is the book that is published by the Controller's Office every year, and there are some forms that we must use. It's similar to a 1040 at the end of the year when we have to do your tax returns, based on some information that's provided to us by the appraisal district. This particular slide shows you the adjustments to the 2009 tax levy And if you go through all the calculations, you'll come up with a levy of 32,164,134. Now the idea on the, to get the effective tax rate, you have to have a rate that will calculate, that will give you the same levy as last year. You have a pointer? Well, it's okay. At the very bottom, you have the effective tax rate equals, you get the adjusted 2009 taxes, which is 32,164,134, which is on the right side, and you divide that by the 2010 taxable value, and the taxable value is right there in the center, under 4,891,462,281. You divide that by the tax rate that you just calculated, and it'll give you the same amount of taxes that you collected last year. And that's the proof that the effective tax rate of 65, 75, 66 will generate the same amount of revenues that you generated using last year's rate of 65, 41, 89. You can see the 2009 on top. That was the tax rate for last year, 65, 41, 89. The number that will give you the same taxes for 2010 is 65, 75, 56. That's where the effective rate comes into the picture. Now, all of this was talked to you, well, we brought this to you about on August the 17th, and all we presented to you was just a printout of the worksheet. This is a little bit more, well, to make it easier. Now this is, I'll skip that. Now there's also a rollback rate. The rollback rate has two components. That's the M&O, which is the maintenance and operations, and then also for the INS, which is the interest and sinking fund. That's to set aside monies to pay your long-term debt. The M&O portion of the rollback rate tax rate is the tax rate that would be needed to raise 8% more operating funds than the taxing entity levied in the preceding year. This calculation is similar to the effective rate calculation. The debt rate portion is the tax rate that will be needed to pay the taxing entity's debt payments in the coming year. This portion of the calculation does not depend on the prior year's debt taxes at all. It simply considers what the taxing entity will actually need for the current year. We continue with rollback rate. The portion of the overall rate used to retire debt may rise as high as necessary without triggering the threat of a rollback rate. The M&O portion, however, may only rise 8%. This is a little slide that shows you how the rollback rate is calculated, and you take the adjusted 2009 values. In this case, it's 4,913,460,980, and you multiply that times your M&O rate of last year, 39.85 cents. You add sales tax collected of 7,932,409. Now, when we're talking about sales tax collected, those are the half-cent sales tax that was used to reduce property taxes. And then you also add the refund that you had last year, and you divide that by the adjusted 2010 taxable values, 4,891,462,281, and you get 5481.06. That's your the M&O rate. And then at the very bottom you have the debt service. We estimated what our debt service is for the year. It's 13,438,841 minus the excess 2009 debt collections, which was 0, and you divide that by 100, and you get the amount. In this case, it's 2702.56. You add them together, the rollback rate is 8622.10. That's before a sales tax adjustment. There is going to be a sales tax adjustment because, and this is an explanation here, during the sales tax and general obligation bond election held on August 10th, 1991, the voters of the city of Brownsville, Texas approved Proposition number 1. With this passage, the voters adopted a half-cent sales tax and use tax to reduce the property tax rate. So we're going to go back and reduce that number that we had earlier, 862210, by the sales tax that has been collected. And this is the calculation. By having this proposition approved way back in 91, the voters of the city save, because of the sales tax, $1544.64. So you reduce $1544.64 from that 86, and you're gonna get an adjusted rollback rate of 77.46. Now that explains how the effective rate and the rollback rate was calculated. Let's go to the other one. That's okay. This is our, as you recall earlier in the previous presentation, we have to have 2 public hearings if we're going to recommend a tax rate above the effective tax rate, but we cannot go over the rollback rate. This is our second hearing regarding a tax increase.
Let me ask you something. What is city's staff recommendation on this?
We are going to be proposing, we have advertised a 5 cents. We are proposing 3 cents increase. Let's go back to...
Before we get there, Pete, maybe it'd be a wise idea to lay this on the table and go to the next item to discuss the budget, because we got a 6.2.
Right. We are discussing the tax rate first, and then we'll include that.
The tax rate's an action item.
No,
it's
sir.
not.
No,
There
it's
is,
not.
It's
Both.
just a hearing.
okay, let me go back.
Okay.
We do not have, an adoption of the budget is not gonna occur until September
Okay,
20th.
I see that. I thought it was an action item. Okay, go ahead.
This is just to point out what our tax rates have been the last several years. At one time, we were at 68 cents. We reduced it to 65 cents. And the reason why it was reduced is because of the growth that the city was having during that period. And remember that the effective, how we calculated the effective tax rate, obviously if your tax rolls grow, in this case our tax roll were growing, we had to set up an effective tax rate. That caused the rate to go down. So it went down to 68 cents. It's a reverse nowadays. Growth is not there anymore like we used to have it. So, and that's why we come up with the 65 cents. We're gonna stay there until we increase it.
But it's important to note, Pete, that we were at 75 cents at one time.
We were at one time, we were at 75 cents, but because of the election that occurred when we approved the sales tax, that was reduced to 68
That and the
60
bond issue.
68 cents. This is something that we've gone over the last few meetings. What 1 penny? I mean, 1 penny will result in 4. That's
Pete, when are you gonna put it on for action, though?
Sir?
When are you gonna put it on for action?
September 20th.
September the 20th. We
And that's with
must.
the budget?
Yes.
Because you have to do this before the budget, right?
Right. Remember, by law, we must have 2 hearings, and this is our second hearing. Let me talk to you about this particular rate. 4 years ago, the City Commission, this is something that was passed by the Texas legislature, whereby the cities could offer citizens over 65 or disabled, whereby we could freeze their property taxes.
Is that optional or is that mandatory?
It was optional to the entities. The City Commission at that time approved it. So every year, as a result of that freeze, if you look at it, it's about a penny. That's how much money the city has given up in our taxes because of the freeze.
The reason I'm asking that is because one of the biggest advocates against taxes is Mr. Barrera there. So he's benefiting from that action.
Not only that, we also offer, for over 65, we offer a $6,000 homestead exemption that other cities here in Cameron County do not offer.
But I'm
So
wondering-
besides the freeze, we also offer a $6,000 exemption for those that are over 65 on a homestead.
But I'm wondering, since it's not obligatory, if Mr. Barrera would be willing to pay taxes to help us out? We don't have to give it to you.
May I continue, Mayor?
Yes.
Let me,
I think he was complaining when we did that. Go ahead.
yeah, I would like to finish, and then we can go to the public hearing. What does, this is let's look at a average value on a residence homestead in Brownsville in 2000, for the coming year, it's $80,346. If we raise, now we can go from 65, 75, 56, which is the effective rate, all the way to the rollback rate of 77.7. If we go 1 penny, an average citizen increase would be $8.03
For the year.
for the year. If it's 2 cents, it's $16. 3 cents, it's $24, and down the line, all the way up to the rollback rate of $40.32. Now, granted, this is the average homestead in Brownsville. One of the things that we also want to discuss with you is, some time ago, a year ago, we came to you to request funding for some projects that are listed there, and we have a deadline that we must spend some of this money. If we don't, we have a deadline to get proceeds from a debt issuance so that we can reimburse the general fund, because general fund has already upfront all these expenses, and the general fund is just waiting to get reimbursed as soon as debt proceeds are issued. Right now, the general fund stands to, fund 2.4 million that otherwise could have been funded through a debt series. Now, the first one, and we have 18 months from the first date of expense. Let's say, in this case, the landfill engineering was done in June 3rd. 18 months will be December 3rd, 2010. So, if there's no debt issuance or no proceeds from a debt issuance, the general fund will not get reimbursed for $272.
Let me interject there, Pete, because I want the public to know. There's a lot of people that lauded the lawsuit against the city. This 2.4 was on the COs that were going to be issued. This was a mechanism for the city to do these things without raising your taxes. Did y'all understand that? This was a way to fund these things without raising your taxes. The lawsuit, if they prevail, will force us to raise your taxes to cover that. So, thank them, will you?
Then we have police vehicles, 901,991. The deadline would be December 19th, and so forth. It runs all the way up to August 11th, 2011. That's the public hearing on the tax increase proposal.
Sometimes we shoot ourselves in the foot, not realizing how good we have it. We need, and I think all of you support getting vehicles for the police. This was a way to fund it without raising taxes. Now, we must raise taxes if we can't make up that money, or file bankruptcy with all the other problems that we're having financially. We're talking about. This is a public hearing. Mr. Roman Perez.
Last meeting, I believe you did, Mayor, you made either you or one of the commissioners stipulated that you haven't, every year you pick the effective tax rate, and that you haven't necessarily raised taxes. I decided to take a look at some of the past meetings. Since 2002, only once has this commission ever voted for the effective tax rate. And I believe that might have been last year, and it also happened to be higher than the previous year's tax rate. I believe in 2005, some members of the city commission voted to go below the 68 cents, and I think it was because the effective tax rate was, if they would have voted for the 68 cents, it would have been above the rollback rate. That was really the only reason. But every other year, even when it was 68 cents, you voted above the effective tax rate at that point because you wanted to keep the tax rate the same. I just wanted to make that clear, in part because I don't like some certain misinformation be given out there to the public. As far as the $2.4 million, Mayor, as I said last public hearing, there is some room in the reserves. I understand that you want to keep 15% available in your reserves of your budget, but you still have that money. You don't necessarily have to raise taxes to pay for those $2.4 million that were pre-spent because you wanted to incur debt. Nobody was forcing you to go into debt at that time, but you decided that you wanted to do it. Whether these projects are good or not good, I agree they are very good projects. They need to be done. But you could and I know you're looking there very upset, Mayor. I understand why you're upset because I'm telling you the truth. If you really believe this, I'm not kidding. Go to the public. I'm pretty sure there are at least 2 people here who will understand that you don't want to raise
You're
taxes.
deaf because I said that back then we could take it to the public, but that's not the point. I'm not here to debate you. What we're here is to deal with a serious problem.
Understand.
You can be real nitpicky about the effective tax rate, how we get there, and make your point, which, you know, you're welcome to do it because this is a public hearing. But what is frustrating is that you never bring nothing positive or constructive to solve the problem.
No,
We got a $6.2 million deficit, young man. Tell me how we're gonna solve it.
How
That's
much?
not
What's the
including,
deficit?
that's not including $5 million that we need for streets.
Understood.
Give me a solution, please. Or continue harping the way you do harp every meeting that you come here
What was
with
your
no
deficit?
constructive solutions.
What was your deficit, your supposed deficit number that you just said?
Our reserves are being depleted every year,
Understood.
which puts us at risk in our bond ratings, which puts us at risk to where we have to pay more for borrowing money. So, yes, this was a way to issue debt without raising taxes.
Understood.
That was an instrument that has been used by this city historically for many, many years. Now, putting us at risk to where we may lose that low interest by well-intended citizens, okay? That we may lose that low interest is going to cost citizens more money, okay?
What about the
More money.
solution that was offered last meeting, and I believe it was Mr. Ruiz who offered the solution? Why not, put all of the debt together and incur that savings as far as that? That's a potential solution. Well, last year, Mayor, I came up here with certain solutions to, cut down your budget, and you didn't appreciate it. So what's the point of me coming up here with these supposed non-positive solutions if you're not going to at least, listen to me and take that into account?
We
No, you
appreciate
don't.
it, but we would like.
Don't lie.
First of all, Mr. Perez, do you own a business? Do you operate a business?
No, actually, I don't. I'm a stay-at-home dad, and I'm disabled.
This is a $120 million business.
Understood.
Okay?
Actually, it's more than
We go based
124
on
million, but
the
okay.
priorities and needs and commitments that the city has
Mhm.
and the wants of this community. Now, you may disagree what's a priority, and you may disagree what we should fund or not fund. I may disagree, like the sports park.
Understood.
But
We agree on
This is
that.
the democratic process, and I lose, I win, we move on, okay?
Right.
So I'm not gonna try to micromanage your business or your affairs at home, okay?
I should certainly hope
Because
not.
I wouldn't even know where to begin.
Mhm.
I wouldn't even know where to begin. What you come up here, you make it very simple and opposing without really understanding all the dynamics of
You
what.
insult me there, Mayor. I do kind of understand. I try to, understand everything you say,
Give me
Mayor.
a solution, Mr. Perez, to.
I don't have the, well, I am
$6.2
offering you a solution. Your
$6.2
solution,
million
no,
deficit.
your
How do we
solution is
solve
very
that?
easy. Go to the voters and ask them to incur this debt. That's your solution, and if you don't like it, well, then you don't like it. You don't agree with it, and you just got sued because you decided you wanted to go
That
to
is an
certificate of
option.
obligation. It's an option. I'm hoping that you take the option, because if you tell the citizens what you're telling me right now, we might actually agree with you. But I think part of the problem, Mayor, is that we as citizens, or some members of the community, not everybody, obviously, don't believe that you as leaders, or you as providing the oversight that is necessary to trust you all with our money. And that's just what some people, I'm not saying I agree with them or don't agree with them, but I am saying this, so that's a sentiment out there. I do want to point out also that your effective tax rate, I know.
Do you trust anybody that's up here?
Do I trust any, yeah, well, I trust Mr. Sharani.
Okay, so if he says that, you know, we have a $6.2 million deficit, would you believe him?
No, I believe you have, well, the thing is that I don't believe you have a $6.2 million deficit, because I think Mr. Gonzalez said you have, what was it, a $4.5 million deficit? And the 2.4 million is not necessarily a deficit, because you may still win the lawsuit and you can still incur the certificates of obligation. So it's not necessarily 6.2 million. Can you, what is the exact number? The, you know, one and then adding it.
I want to make a presentation the next.
Yeah, okay, that way I can, and the other thing is that the numbers that you're looking at, you have to remember that property values have grown. I believe, Mr. Gonzalez, you said that property values, when they grow, the effective tax rate tends to be lower, right? Is there any particular reason why property values have grown from last year to this year? And they have, right?
They have not.
They didn't grow, because I thought you said last year they had
Well,
grown.
that's the reason why the effective tax rate is lower.
Okay,
Because
they did not grow at all.
That's what I was explaining on the formula.
Okay,
If you take the adjusted
Pay attention.
right. Okay, yeah, because that's why I was a little bit confused, because your presentation this week was saying that, but then again, the next presentation wasn't. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'll talk in a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Perez.
Bye-bye.
Okay, anybody else? This is a public hearing.
Hi, Tere Flores, U.S. citizen. Maybe you need to cut in some areas where nobody wants to cut, like maybe pension funds. Can they be scaled back, or put a freeze, or cut 50%? I have a medical coverage insurance policy that I have a $5,000 deductible. Maybe you can raise the deductible of the employees, and that should lessen the amounts of money that are required to pay for the premiums.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, this agenda item is on the effective tax rate, not on the budget.
Oh, okay. Well,
We're gonna get to the
I was
budget
just
in a minute.
wondering, offering suggestions how to lower that
Tax rate?
outstanding bill that you have, or the over.
But he's referring to the tax rate we're talking about. Do you have a proposal for the tax rate? Or you're against it, you're for it?
I'm against it.
Okay, thank you. She's against the effective tax rate. Okay, anybody else? If not, can I have a motion? Okay, we're gonna get to the budget in the next item. This is on the effective tax rate.
Honorable Mayor, Honorable City Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Ernesto de Leon. Just looking at the deal that was shown a while ago, I just was astonished by watching the engineering fees for the landfill, 200-something thousand plus. That's a lot of money. In other words, I just visiting with Mr. Gonzalez, and he says that unless I have a better solution, but I don't right now, but you know, possibly you all might want to look at it and see where that money's going to. Of course, I know that even if he's an Aggie, he should be making that kind of money. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can we have a motion to close the public hearing on the wait, you don't want to continue this?
No, on the other item, we want to continue. We will have a publication notice in the newspaper for this particular item for the 20th. On the next item.
This is not even an action item, I forgot that. Okay. So this is just a public hearing. Can we have a motion to close the public hearing?
No.
Second.
Motion to close. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 10.
Item 10, fifth public hearing to discuss the city's proposed fiscal year 2011 budget.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Commission, this is the 5th public hearing that we're having on our proposed 2011 budget. We have to keep in mind that this is what was filed at the City Secretary's office, where we maintain the same effective tax rate as a proposed rate. As I make the presentation, you'll see that some of these rates will change with the increase in the proposed tax rate. I'm going to skip some of these slides because we've already gone through them. This is the first budget that we had after budget cuts. So this is a number that we have discussed with you previously. The only thing that has changed there is the first column. We have had some budget amendments a week ago, so that those numbers have changed. This slide shows the budget that shows that's something that we didn't have before, and that's the $2,500,000 from the PUB as an economic assistance. If we include the $2,500,000, that means that our deficit is at $1,021,734.
Okay,
Our projected.
Before you go further, the gentleman there was referring to the engineering fees and the public works sanitation, landfill. Does anybody want to address that?
The landfill gets inspections regularly by TCEQ that mandate certain things to us every year. We are mandated to correct them, to improve, and that's what we're doing. We do proposals in relation to cost. This is the engineer that was selected. It was presented to the commission. All that's been done. This is
Charlie, is that engineer? I'm sorry. Is that engineer work can be done in house?
No, sir.
No, we can in the future consider hiring that type of engineer. It seems like we're gonna have this landfill at least forever, or for another 20, 40, 50 years. Is that something the city may wanna at some point bring on staff to handle that?
The landfill has just received a perfect rating in relation to what we have to do there.
Yes, but that's not my question. Charlie, I'm sorry, that's not my question. My question is
we can look at that, Commissioner.
If we're gonna have this landfill for the next 50 years, would it make sense to at some point bring that engineer or 2 or 3 individuals to help take care of that problem? I don't know.
We're gonna have to hire an engineer at a gigantic cost. This is one project that's costing us this much to engineer. I mean, if you wanna hire an engineer in-house to be able to handle something like this, it's gonna come at an extreme cost. I'm not sure exactly how, but next year we'll have another project to do at the landfill. The landfill generates a lot of funding for the city, but however, it is governed by TCEQ, federal agencies that assure inspections and things like that are done. New rules, new laws come into place that we have to abide by, and this is part of it. Now, understand we're also introducing a project at the landfill that's saving energy and conserving energy, and the possibility exists that we'll be able to generate money from that. But it doesn't. I mean, you have to hire expertise when it comes to things like that. You can't in-house it with one of our engineers.
So what you're saying is part of the expense of operation, and it's a reasonable expense?
It is a reasonable expense, and hopefully it'll turn out to be a project that eventually will generate money for the city.
Okay. Thank you. Continue.
Okay, now let's go with if we go with a 1 penny increase from the effective rate, tax rate of 65.7556 to 66.7556, there's an increase of 1.52% over the effective tax rate. If we go with a penny, our deficit, assuming that we have the 2.5 million from the PUB one more time for as an economic assistance, our deficit will be at 545,897.
Will be at what?
5.5.
5.5, that's what I thought.
545,000.
That's after the 2.5.
And a tax rate of a penny increase. You can see the revenues are 87,789,486, and the expenses are 88,335,383, which causes a deficit or a difference of 545,897. Now, you have to understand also that if you look at sales tax, we're being very optimistic. We're maintaining the same amount that we have in 2010. And in 2010, we're down $846,000 from budget. So we're being very optimistic with this projection and maintaining the same sales tax for the coming year in 2011, meaning that we would have to show a huge improvement between 2010 and 2011. Very likely that's a little bit optimistic, maybe 500,000, maybe we have $500,000 more. So we're hoping that the economy improves and we will maintain that 24 million that we have in 2010, even though 2010 we're behind about 846,000 through 10 months of the year. But there has been a slight improvement the last 2 months of the fiscal year, and we're hoping that improvement continues, whereby we will generate the 24 million. But we are taking a chance in that particular line item of 24,011,000. So if you look at that 545,897 and you realize that you're not going to collect the $500,000 more in sales tax, then you're looking at $1 million with a penny. If we go to 2-cent increase, it's an increase of 3% over the effective tax rate. What does this do? The 2 pennies. Again, sales tax being very optimistic at 24 million. You're down to 70,491. And again, a budget is just an estimate. Things change, revenues change. The only thing that we really can control in a budget, and more than anything else, is expenditures. We can control expenditures, but sometimes it's very difficult to control some of the revenues, especially sales tax. Property tax, we'll collect that. It's been a history that every time we levy a certain amount, we collect it. But the one that stands out the highest there would be the sales tax. And the other one is the bridge, the crossings. We do have an increase added, but we have to understand also that the bridge fund right now is, for 2010, is below almost 300,000 from our budget. We are budgeting the same because my understanding is that Cameron County is increasing the tolls for the bridge. The problem here is that Veterans Bridge has the trucks, and my understanding is that there was no increase on the tolls for the trucks, and that's where the trucks use Veterans Bridge. So there is obviously an increase for passengers, and we went ahead and taken a chance and having the same revenue as 2010. If you look at it, operating trust from the bridge fund is $1,075,000 in 2010, which we're not meeting yet.
In fact, it could even drop because people are going to start using the B&M.
And so we have the same amount there. So we're being very optimistic, I believe, in the bridge as well as the sales tax. So if that trend continues, the sales tax and the bridge come through, then our deficit is $70,000. That's on a 2-cent increase. As we go through the 3 cents, you'll see a surplus. If you go to 68.75.56, the increase is 4.56% over the effective rate. Again, in 2000, if you look at the 3-cent increase, you'll see that there is an actual surplus, but I caution everyone that the sales tax is very optimistic, as well as the bridge transfers. If that doesn't come through, obviously we'll have a deficit instead of a surplus of 404,000. And that's also assuming that we get the 2.5 million from the PUB. And that's the main point.
If we were to look at it just hypothetically, to cover this deficit, the shortfall, what kind of tax rate increase would it require? About 12 cents or more?
Well, okay, you're talking about, you want to add the 2.7?
No. Yeah, a shortage, a shortfall. Forget about PUB, forget about, we did nothing except just raise taxes.
Well,
what would it
5
be?
cents, Mayor, gives you around 2.4 million in property tax.
Okay, but you're saying we have 8.0? Including the 2.4 as the shortfall? I had calculated 6.2, and you said it was 5.5 plus the 2.5, or 2.4, whatever it was.
Okay, you're talking about with no tax increase? We go back to the first slide.
Go back to the budget as you propose right now, the way it is
Well,
right now.
This is the way it is right now, by increasing sales tax to 20.
Without increasing sales tax, what I'm saying is, what's your shortage?
Oh, you're looking at a $5 million shortfall.
So how much of a tax increase would it take to?
Well, we cannot go that high, Mayor,
I
because.
know that, but I want people to understand what we're talking about, what it would take to do that.
Okay, let me see if I have that schedule.
I want people to understand the seriousness of this shortfall,
You want to go to the other?
because Mr. Barrera and I had a very heated discussion on this, that this was gonna happen the first time around, 2007, 2008, 2009. Did we not, Mr. Barrera?
This is what will generate 5 cents, 2.5 million.
So you still, even 5 cents, if you were to raise it 5 cents, that still does not make it short.
Right.
Okay, now it's up to the commission here. Well, this is a public hearing. I'm sure, Mr. Barrera, you're here to, against taxes?
That's what you told me.
Come up here to the podium. No, come to the podium, please, state your name, and you're against taxes, and okay, but tell me how we're supposed to make up the shortfall.
My name is Dagoberto Barrera, and I am against taxes. The man that